Okay, we're going to do a little bit of review of trig. So just to start things out, I'm going to put up a little triangle here and label some sides as well as the angle that we're looking at. So when I'm talking about trigonometry, we are talking about basically the ratio of any two sides of a triangle, and we should be able to determine the angle that we're looking at. And then we can use trig. And as long as we have two values of a triangle, we can find out the rest of the sides or the angle or another angle. So talking about trig, one thing that we have to make sure that we are clear on is that whatever angle or corner of the triangle we're looking at. So in this case, we are looking at this corner right here, and theta is the angle in question. So the angle that we are looking at. And now when we start labeling the other side of the triangle, you see I wrote out here that the longest side here, which is the hypotenuse, is side C. And then we have the vertical side over here. And the side that is in relationship to theta is the side opposite. Okay. And then the side that is on the triangle right here, that is right beside theta, we call that the side adjacent. All right, so that's the adjacent side. And of course, the longest side here, side C, is always the hypotenuse. Okay, so that's really critical that we are able to label the sides of the triangle accordingly so that we're using the correct ratios. So side A right here in relationship to our angle theta is called the side opposite. Side B in relationship to theta is called the side adjacent. It's adjacent to the angle. And side C, which is always the longest side, or the side opposite the 90 degree, is always the hypotenuse. Now, just to make sure we understand this, let's say that we're not looking at this one, we're looking at this angle. Well, side C remains as the hypotenuse. It's the longest side. Now, the side that's opposite the angle is side B. So this now becomes the opposite side. And of course, the side that's right beside the angle is the adjacent side. So it's always about the angle in question, or the angle that we're looking at. What corner of the triangle are we looking at in order to label which is the side adjacent and which is the side opposite. Okay, so I got the same triangle here. We put some values up, and we're going to review the three trig functions. So you probably remember we had an acronym for it. It was SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA, right there. Okay, so this is quite helpful in trying to remember the three trig ratios that we are going to be using. So the first one stands for the sine ratio. So sine of angle theta, the ratio is the side opposite divided by the hypotenuse side. So in this case, the side opposite of our angle is 30, and the hypotenuse is 50. So when I take 30 and I divide it by 50, I get 0.6. 0.6. So sine of angle theta is equal to 0.6. And if I want to convert that to angle, calculator knows that if I've used the sine ratio and I get decimal 6, it is always going to correspond to 36.87 degrees. All right, now I'll bring open my calculator here. And if we look at how we enter this into our calculator, it's pretty simple. I'm going to go 30 divided by 50 equals 0.6. And if I go second function sine equals, it converts it over to the angle. So the angle should be 36.887 degrees. Okay, so in this triangle, I've given you all three values of every side. So let's look at what we would use if we use the cosine theta. So cosine theta would be equal to, it's always equal to the side adjacent to the angle divided by the hypotenuse. So the side adjacent in this case is 40, and the hypotenuse still is 50. So 40 divided by 50 gives me 0.8. And if I put that in my calculator, 40 divided by 50 equals 0.8. Second function, cosine, equals 36.87. So you see we get the same angle. If I want to toggle between the ratio value or the angle, I can. So I can just go clear this cosine 36.7. So cosine of 36.7 equals 0.8. Or if I want to go back, second function, cosine. Oops. Yeah, that's right, 36.7. So we can go back and forth between the two. Cosine of the answer equals 0.8. So that's how we can use the calculator to go back and forth. Okay, so the last one here, tangent theta is equal to the side opposite of my angle, which is 30, divided by the side adjacent, which is 40. So 30 divided by 40 comes to 0.75. So to enter that in, we're going to go 30 divided by 40 equals 0.75. Second function, tan equals. So 38.86 or 87 degrees. Okay, so that's the use of the three ratios to figure out our angle.